All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Welcome, all right, to another live lesson. The name of this one is Yakazak Allah, or Ezekiel, chapter 38. And Yakazak Allah is how you say Ezekiel in the Hebrew, which means Yahweh strengthens, or the power strengthens, or the Most High strengthens. And then you see chapter, and then you see Roman numerals. The X's represent tens, the V is 5, and the ones are 1. So put it all together, it's 38, chapter 38. And I'm gonna go through this best I can, give you edification on Ezekiel 38. Just keep in mind that Ezekiel 38 is still a major prophecy, still playing out today, and hasn't been fully fulfilled yet, but we know it's coming. Like with anything in the scriptures, when you read the scriptures, sometimes you'll read a chapter and the chapter will jump around to different time periods. Sometimes it'll jump around to different what's the word I'm looking for? Different topics, and some things are straightforward, some things are in a mystery, nevertheless, that's how the scriptures are written, and through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, we give the sense of it as the spirit gives us utterance. One instant where scriptures jump to different topics, when you read in the book of Isaiah, the 60th chapter, you have the scriptures speaking about the future judgment of Esau and the nations going into slavery and captivity. Then all of a sudden it jumps to the chariots in one verse, and then it jumps back to the thought at hand. It's almost like you're speaking and you're talking about a certain subject, and all of a sudden you change the subject, for like 5 seconds, and then you come back to the original subject that you had before. And the scriptures are written like that sometimes, and it jumps back and forth, different time periods. Another example of the jumping back, or an example of jumping back and forth in time, is the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter, which jumps back and forth during the time of the Renaissance period, and also to the time of the end. So the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, jumps around also. It jumps around a little bit, but it's mostly dealing with future prophecy. The majority of the chapter is dealing with future prophecy. A part of it goes back in history, just a small part of it, because when you know history, you know that the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes, our people suffered captivity under different nations, and it's no different, from even if the captivity was a little lighter or heavier, we suffered captivity under all different nations, and we went into captivity under the Medes and the Persians also after the Babylonian Empire. So these are things to keep in mind when reading this chapter. And as Elder Apostle Tahar has been saying, I'm gonna repeat it, that World War III will not happen, until the mark of the beast is fully established. So brothers that are teaching that, World War III is happening or is about to happen, the World War III is not gonna get into full bloom or explode on the scene, so to speak, until the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, is fully implemented. So if any brothers are teaching that the market, that World War III is about to pop off, you know, you got to make sure you qualify that by saying that the mark of the beast, which is a microchip, has to be fully implemented first before World War III can actually happen. But I'm gonna just click over, and what you see here is just a map, you know, of the Middle East. You know, it has some ancient names, some modern names, and the reason why I went here is because the areas that we're focusing on in this map will be the Middle East, which, as you can see, this is comprised of the Middle East here. You know, you have the Caucasus Mountains to the north, Armenia, the Euphrates River, which is a major place, you know, in the scriptures, you know, that the scriptures speak about. You know, you have Mesopotamia, Assyria, Haran, so on and so forth. And over here, what you see was Troy, Lydia, Hittites, Anatolia. This is modern day Turkey. And some of these nations, or this area here, has a lot of these individuals that is spoken of in the book of Ezekiel 38. So let's get to it. Ezekiel 38:1, it says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog." Now, Gog is today, modern day Gog would be so-called Russia. You know, back in the days, you had the Medes that actually lived in that region. I'm not sure if this will allow me to make a bigger. I think I try to go here. No, it won't get any bigger than that. It's pretty much the same. I believe it's the same size. Anyway, as you can see here, bear with me 1 second. As you can see here, they have Magog here and Gog. You know, Gog is in this area up here, what they call today Georgia, which used to be a part of Russia. And if you know anything about the USSR, after it broke up, the Lord said he's going to put hooks into their jaw, and he's going to cause a company of nations from the north to come together. And that's the so-called USSR coming back together, you know, under Russia, and those different separate states now that broke away from Russia will be getting back together with them, you know. So this is the area of so-called Russia today. But back in the days, up in this region here, where you see Togama, this region here, which today, this is where the Caucasus Mountain is. This is Georgia, Russia, or used to be Georgia, Russia. It's just Georgia now. This is where in this area, and down here, a little further down here, this is where the Medes were located, down in this area here, you know. Right around here, you see the Caucasus right around in this area. When you look at a map of the Medes, you'll see that they'll locate them in that area around here. You know, you have Nineveh, you know, right around this area. All right, so going back, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog. So this is a direct prophecy against this particular nation, Gog, which today the so-called Russians are up in that land. It says, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So they're the prince, the chief prince that are watching over Meshech and Tubal and prophesy against him. Now, Meshech and Tubal are connected to modern day Turkey. And when you check out these ancient names here in Ezekiel 38, you know, and you go and you check the map, a lot of these nations somehow, some way are connected to Russia, you know, because Russia has a lot of vested interest in these places. Syria being another one, Iran being another one, you know, so on and so forth, because these nations are all allies with Russia. Just like you have America and her allies, you have Russia and her allies, you know. And this is the Lord's doing, putting these nations together like that to fight this final battle, which is called World War III in the scriptures, or the Battle of Armageddon, which the word Armageddon means Harmageddon, which means mountain of the troops. All right. So it says, and say thus, thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. So the Lord is against these Gogites, so to speak, which were up in the land of the Medes in that area. Why? Because at one time, the Medes came against the nation of Israel. The Medes and the Persians, because it was under the Medes, if I'm not mistaken, that the building of the temple had stopped, because Cyrus, the king of Persia, gave the decree that the temple should be erected, because he knew that he was the man that the Lord set up to give Israel the ability to go back and build the temple and rebuild Jerusalem. But then under the Medes, they stopped it. It says, so now the Lord is telling Gog, right? And I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws. So what does that mean? If you have someone that's running a certain way and you put a hook in their jaw, what is that going to cause them to do? That's going to cause them to do a 180-degree turn. Just like if you cast a net, a fishing pole into the water and you're fishing, and the fish might be flying by, might be swimming by, not flying by, swimming by, and then if the hook catches onto the fish's mouth, it's going to be turned in the direction of that fishing hook. So the Lord is directing Russia to go backwards, to the way that they used to be. Why? Because the Lord is eventually going to cause these nations that broke away from Russia, which was called at the time the Iron Wall, to come back together, to fight this great war that's about to come, which is the Battle of Armageddon. It says, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army. Now, Russia is a big country. When you look at a map of Russia, the map of Russia is a very big country. Let's see. Let's go to images. All right. So you have Russia, which is a great big country. You can't really see it that well here. Let me see if I click on it. See if I can find another one. These maps, man, they said this used to be so much easier that they started messing around with. Used to be able to find all kind of maps and all kind of stuff real easy, but these devils, they cranking down. Well, anyway, you brothers could type it in. Russia is a big place, and here we go. And this is Russia here. All right. So all of Russia's armies are going to be sent into the Middle East, but there's going to be a remnant of their army that's going to be left there, which you read in Ezekiel, the 39th chapter. He said that he will leave but the sixth part of these. So if Russia's army is broken up into 6 parts, 5 parts of that army is going to be fighting this war, of Armageddon. And 1/6 of the Russian army is going to stay behind to protect the fatherland, so to speak. All right. So going back, damn, I hope I didn't get rid of another map that I needed. Probably did, but hey, oh well. All right. So it says, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor. And we know today that is talking about the military men and the military forces, because back in the days, wars were fought on horseback, with all sorts of armor. But today, it's fought by what? By tanks, planes, helicopters, missiles, so their armies are going to be coming all are decked out for war. Even a great company with bucklers and shields. Why? Because this great company comprises the allies of Russia, but not only the allies of Russia, all of the ancient, or all of the former, or the majority of the former USSR nations. Because if you type in, let's go to, if you type in USSR map, let's get that real quick. Images. If you type that in, as you can see, all in red. Oh no, I'm sorry. Right here. See, this was, I'm not sure if it's gonna let me get it any bigger. But all of these were actually a part of the USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic, you know, including Georgia, Russia. It used to be called Georgia, Russia. But now, when you look at the map is a lot smaller, because some of these allies that made up the Iron Wall, all of these here and down in this area, they're all separate entities now, ever since the, you know, that whole thing was dismantled, you know. So they're going to come back together along with their allies, all of them handling swords. And we know that the modern day sword is what? The gun, missiles, so on and so forth. So now it gets into some of the major allies of Russia. And the first one on the list is Persia. Now we know that Persia is the modern day Iranians. All right. Persia is the modern day Iranians, which you could see them right here, Iran. Or, yeah, Iran right here. You can see them here. And you know that by watching the news and everything, you see that there's a major prophecies taking place with Iran getting together with Russia. Russia getting together with some of these other allies that they have. You know, the back and forth, you know, wars and, you know, the rumors of wars between Iran and America, Russia and America. You know, these are all the buildups to the final war. Just like when you have a fight, you have to promote the fight. So what the Most High is doing, he's promoting the fight. What you have right now is a weigh-in of these different nations. You know, they're coming in talking shit, you know, showing their physique, you know, how they're in shape for this fight, talking all kind of shit. Well, that's the Lord promoting this third world war. You know, so this is the weigh-in. All right, what you see going on right now is the weigh-in. So Persia is one of the major allies of Russia, which are the Iranians today. All right, it says Ethiopia, and Ethiopia, which are the ancient Cushites. You see them down here, Cush. So you have the Persians, which are the Iranians. Then you have the Cushites, which are the Ethiopians. These all have vested interests with Gog or Magog, which is so-called Russia. So it's no coincidence that these things are happening today. And as you read on, it says Libya with them. And Libya is in northern, so-called northern Africa. Let me move this over. You know, right here, Libya. All right. And then it says all of them with shields and helmets. And Russia is supplying these nations with goods, you know, military goods. All right. Why? Because the Lord is putting that spirit in them. It says Gomer and all his bands. Now, Gomer in this map, they have Gomer in a different location. They have Gomer way up here, but Gomer should be located in Turkey. You know, along with Meshach and Tubal, it should be located in this area. you know, probably closer to the east of Turkey, you know, bordering like Armenia around those areas. So Gomer is in this area here, in this region, right? It says, and the house of Togarmah of the north quarters. And the house of Togarmah, as you can see, is here in the north quarters. And if you go a little further up, you have the Caucasus Mountains, Georgia, you know, Armenia is in this area, you know. So you have all of these nations here, and a majority of those Armenians are Jakes, you know, but you have these different nations here that are going to be fighting this war. Because remember, there's a great mixing and mingling of all these different nations, you know. I mean, that's another topic. Okay, it says, and all his bands and many people with thee. So why is it going to be many people with thee? Because to fulfill the scriptures, as the Lord said, Harmageddon or Armageddon, which is the mountain of the troops, and this is where the great gathering of these troops are going to be in the so-called Middle East. You know, you have the Persian Gulf, which is one of the main bodies of water, and then you have the Euphrates River. This all plays a major part of the location of this last and final war. And then you have the Red Sea, which is another indication, Mediterranean Sea. This land here, there's no coincidence that all these nations are amassing here in this area. And all of these nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38, is no coincidence that they're allied with so-called Russia. All right. So it says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And Russia is a guard unto them. This is why America just can't roll up in certain countries like they used to, you know, and do their dirt. Because you have Russia, and you also have China, which is another superpower that's backing a lot of these countries. It says, after many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. Now this land that is brought back from the sword is talking about the land of Israel. Because the land of Israel has been trodden down of all these different nations. Let's go real quick to Luke. And this is a part of the prophecy. The Lord said that the curses was going to come upon us, you know, that the land was going to enjoy the Sabbath when we got kicked out because we were running things to the ground, you know, when we were there. So Luke 21:24 says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Who? The Israelites. And shall be led away captive into all nations. And that happened. And the last time we as a nation were really in the land of Israel was going back to the time of 70 AD. Between 66 AD or so up until 74 AD. After that, our people have not been in that land. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians have not been in that land. You know, and the so-called Latino or Hispanics and Native American Indians have not been in this land for a long time. Even though you did have some of them that were back there, you know, in Jerusalem, in Palestine, in those regions back then. All right. It says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So it was trodden down. And that land, Jerusalem, has been being conquered by many different nations over time. You know, you had the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, you had the Greeks, you had the Romans, then you had the Crusades, you know, where you had the Christians that owned it for a period of time. Then you had the Muslims that took over it. You know, so that land has been being fought back and forth over for a period of thousands of years. Today you have them so-called Jews over there, them gutter rats, you know, the Palestinians. You know, you have all these people that have, and that's a bloody land. There have been many fights and skirmishes that have been fought in that land. All right. So going back, it says the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people, because many people have been in that land. Did not the Babylonians, I'm sorry, did not the Assyrians, did not the Assyrians bring in many people down into that region? The Babylonians put people up in there, you know, so there have been many people that have been in that land. even to this very day, against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. But it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Because when the Lord comes back, we're going to go back to our land, and we'll be able to dwell there safely. This is why these people, these Israelites that are going to that land now and trying to pitch tent there, they're going off. Because the scriptures say that their land is going to be totally wasted, totally destroyed. It says that these Russian armies, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands, which is your armies. Like when you read about Acts the 10th chapter, Cornelius of the Italian band, that doesn't mean that he was an Italian. That means that he was of the Italian army. Bands means armies. You know, troops. It says, and many people with thee. Why? Because you're going to have the allies of Russia fighting against them gutter rats, you know, them so-called them Israelis, which are not Israelites. That's why they call themselves Israelis, you know, and America, because the scriptures say that the least of the flock shall draw them out, meaning that them people that's calling themselves Jews in the land of Israel, which are not the Jews, are going to draw America into this final battle with Russia and her allies, you know, Syria and Iran and all of them different nations. It says, thus saith the Lord power, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Because right now, the scriptures tell us that, let's go from there to the book of Revelation. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me see. Yeah, we could go here. Revelation, the 16th chapter, and the 12th verse. It says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, which is a major scene for future events. And the waters thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. So the Lord is preparing these kings, because they're in the eastern world, and he's preparing them. And he has American troops over there in the land barren and desolate, because it's strategic. It says, and I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, which is the Roman Empire, and out of the mouth of the beast, which is the EU, NATO and the EU, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, which is the Roman Catholic Church. So these three entities, the Roman Empire, which is today is America, you know, because America is the head of the Roman Empire. It's the revival of the Roman Empire with her allies. The beast being the NATO and the EU, and the false prophet being the Roman Catholic Church. It says, for they are the spirits of devils working miracles. And that's what they're doing. They're working miracles. They're working magic. And behind the scenes, they're creating certain things to happen, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world. So they're the ones that's going to these different kings of the whole world, you know, to gather them to the battle of the great day of the power Almighty. And that's what they do. They're paying off certain individuals. They're causing certain false flags to happen. They're making certain things happen to cause this tension to build up. They're lying, you know, on these different nations, so that they can cause that buildup and be able to justify, so-called justify, them going into lands like Iran and Syria and other places like that. But that's going to backfire on them, because the Most High is going to cause an evil thought to come into the mind of Gog, which is the so-called Russians. Because right now, you know, you got a lot of puppets out there, but something's gonna happen to where the Lord is gonna turn the tables on this devil, and he's gonna make these nations, you know, to come against America. And let's go from there real quick to the book of Proverbs 21. See, because Esau thinks that he's controlling things, but he's not. Even Esau himself, these international bankers are being controlled by the Most High. Proverbs 21:1, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the king's heart, no matter what ruler is on the planet, The Most High is the one that's controlling their mind. And how does he do that? When men are sleeping, he seals the instructions. You know, when you're in your REM or REM sleep, you know, which is a rapid eye movement, the Lord is sealing your instructions. So that it says, and as the rivers of water, he turneth it with whatsoever he will. So he causes them to go in the direction that he wants them to go. The Lord is the one that guides the course of the river. So there's going to be something that's going to happen that's going to cause Russia to break away from the norm, so to speak, and that comfortable position and money receiving that they're getting from Esau here in the so-called excuse me, U.S. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. So the Most High is going to stir up the Medes, which are the modern day Medes are the Russians, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. So something's going to happen to where they're not going to want any more money from these devils, because everything comes with ulterior motives. You see, because the Most High is going to intervene. And that, you know, that's it. We could come back to that Lord's will later. Let me move this here. So Ezekiel 38:11, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. And what is the land of unwalled villages? Unwalled villages represents a city or a place that is not protected. Because back in the days, you had walls that will cover the city. And this is why you had nations that will come to a particular city and they would have to lay siege to that city because they had gates, they had walls around the city where you couldn't just walk into the city. But America is a land of unwalled villages because they have no walls. They have nothing to stop you from coming in and out, outside of, you know, maybe having some checkpoints here and there. But they don't have any walls. So anywhere in the four borders of the so-called U.S., Babylon the Great, you can just walk right into this place. You know, it says, I will go to them that are at rest. And here they are at rest. The scriptures speak about America dwelling carelessly. When you read Isaiah the 47th chapter, that dwell safely. And they are dwelling safely. Because people, you know, even though after 9/11 they got put to scaring people, but people are just going about their daily life. They ain't thinking about nothing. That's why when something pops off, some major catastrophe or something like that, people get nervous because they're so used to being comfortable. It says all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. So there's nothing here to protect this place. And even their so-called missile defense, you know, that they have to intercept nuclear missiles or any type of missiles is not going to work in that day, because the Lord said that when he guides those nuclear missiles, his spirit is going to be in the nuclear missiles so heavy that when another missile hits that missile, it's not even going to knock it off course. It's not going to destroy it because of the ferocity, you know, if that's even a word, the ferociousness of the Most High Spirit is going to be in those missiles. They're going to be guided. It's going to be guided, divine guided technology from on high. So this place is finished because they have no way to defend themselves. They have no way to fend off an enemy, you know, and even their defenses that they have, missile defense systems, are going to fail. And like the brother just put, I'm a one I bought, outdated missile defense system. It says to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. So America is going to be spoiled. You know, they're going to be taken down. All right. Then it goes on to say Sheba and Dedan. Now, Sheba and Dedan, those lands were actually ancient Hamitic lands that today are inhabited by so-called so-called Arab nations, and that might have been, no, here we go, Sheba and Dedan. This is in so-called Saudi Arabia. But when you look at Sheba and Dedan, they go back to the Cushites. Because remember, you had a Babylon up here. You had the original Babylonians, you know, going back in history, were actually Cushites. Even though the Babylonian Empire was run by Nebuchadnezzar and them, those were Assyrians. But the actual ancient Babylonians that dwelt in this land prior to Nebuchadnezzar and all them, they were Cushites. And you had Cushites that actually lived down here in this area too. When you look up Dedan, Sheba and Dedan, they were actually Cushites or Hamites. But today these lands and these regions are inhabited by who? By these Arabs. You know, and Russia has a big influence on a lot of these Arab or Islamic nations, like Persia, Sheba, Dedan, Kush, Libya. You know, these are all places that worship Islam. All right, Islam. All right, so now let's go back. It says Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish. Now Tarshish is all the way over here in Spain. Let me see if I could pull that map back up. Over here in Spain, that's where Tarshish is located. You know, you got Italy here, Greece, Spain over here. All right, and somehow there's some connection there. You know, I'm pretty sure more information will keep coming out, because the closer we get, the more these prophecies are being fulfilled. And you had a lot of, back in the ancient world, you had a lot of merchants that would go to Tarshish because they had very great seaports. All right. So now it says, with all the young lions thereof shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Verse 14. Now here is where it takes a turn into the past. It says, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto God, thus saith the Lord power, and in that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it? And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army, and thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee again, bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know when I shall be sanctified in thee, O God, before their eyes. And these, and the ancient Medes, they did take over us. They did, we did go in captivity under them after the Babylonian Empire. You know, because that was a part of the prophecy. When you go back into the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, Daniel, the 7th chapter, and others, that was a part of what we had to go through, you know, as far as the prophecies were concerned, because you had major empires that were going to rule in succession until the time when the end would come. So this is why this part here is written. It says, thus saith the Lord power, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? Now it jumps back into the future after the 17th verse. And like we mentioned to you, brother, before, when you go to Revelation, the book of Revelation jumps back and forth between the Renaissance period and modern day today until the destruction, you know, and you have to know when it jumps back and forth. All right. So the 18th verse says, and it shall come to pass at the same time when God shall come against the land of Israel. This is after that evil thought comes into their mind. And it shall come to pass at that same time when God shall come up against the land of Israel, because now it's talking about the land of Israel. It's not talking about the people. This is how we know that it jumps back and forth, because the people that are there in that land today are not the people of the Lord. They come out of the Khazarian Empire. They're Edomites, not Israelites. And the Lord said that that bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. So it says, and it shall come to pass at the same time when God shall come against the land of Israel, said the Lord power, that my fury shall come up in my face, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. And what's going to cause this great shaking in the land of Israel? Well, let's go real quick to Isaiah 24. And there's many precepts you could go to. Revelation 16 speaks about a great earthquake, and other scriptures speak about them great earthquakes that are going to happen. And what's going to cause those great earthquakes is going to rock the whole earth back and forth when the missiles hit. This is Isaiah 24 and 20. It says, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again, meaning that the rulership of the Edomites will fall and not rise again. So that great shaking is from those missiles hitting this place and rocking it back and forth. You know, it says, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. So whoever is left on the soils of this earth, when the missiles hit, they're going to be rocking to and fro. The only ones that's not going to be rocking to and fro are the elect that are going to be in the chariots. And the people that are here on the soils of America will be burnt up to a nuclear crisp. And on the soils of the land of Israel will be burnt up to a nuclear crisp. And if there's any other place that gets hit by those missiles, they will be burnt up to a nuclear crisp. But the fishes of the sea, the beasts, the fowls of the heaven, even the fowls of the heaven are going to be rocking back and forth from the devastation and the motion that the missiles are going to hit the earth with so much that even the birds in the heavens are going to be shaken and be all messed up and not know what the hell is going on. You know, and this reminds me of that vision that A. Allen had, where he said they saw the missiles come out of the sea like fish, you know, jumping out of the sea. You know, so even them fish are going to be rocking to and fro. It says, and the mountains shall be thrown down. I mean, the mountains represent the governments, shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. So there's not going to be any more militaries left to muster themselves back up after this destruction. Because right after the destruction, when we come back down, the Lord's will, you know, we be the elect. We're going to go around gathering these international bankers and these top nobles among these nations, and we're going to go around burning these weapons that are left, you know, around the world with spiritual fire to get rid of it once and for all. It says, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. So there's going to be a major war, which is called World War III, the War of Armageddon, happening. And in the midst of all that, what's going to happen is they're going to stop fighting each other and try to fight against Yahushai. And guess what? They're going to get smashed. It says, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood. You know, and the pestilence represents what? It represents these missiles. But also you're going to have actual diseases that are going to be let loose out here, that are already let loose out here. Elder Apostle Tahar just did a video, you know, where he spoke about that ship that's still at sea from this particular disease that's among those military men. And I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, and overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone, because Russia is going to get caught up in this also. And this is why when you read Ezekiel, the 39th chapter, matter of fact, let me get the point real quick. The 11th verse, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there for graves in Israel, because they're going to be in that land and they're going to be put to death. and there's going to be a lot of different bodies left around. You know, let the bodies hit the floor. So the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon-Gog. Which I'm not sure what the valley. I'm not sure what that word means. I never looked it up. Hamawan Gawag, multitude of Gog. All right, Hamawan. Abundance. So Hamawan Gawag, according to this, means multitude of Gog. All right. So that's going to be pretty much their gravesite. And this is going to be the first job of the international bankers and them noble families among these other nations. You know, they're going to go around, especially Esau, they're going to go around digging holes and burying these dead bodies that are going to be left all around. It's going to be a great slaughter. The Lord said the slain of the Lord shall be many in that day. So going back to Ezekiel 38, it says, and I will rain upon him and upon his band and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. That's dealing with those missiles. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And this is the same way that he did the Pharaoh of Egypt. He built the Pharaoh of Egypt up so that when he destroyed them, his name was magnified. So he can wear Pharaoh's destruction upon his shield, so to speak. You know, because when you go to battle and you have a worthy opponent, so to speak, and you have someone that that's considered a great warrior, and you take him down, you wear that in honor. So you're wearing him on your shield because you were the one that took him down. I just read that earlier. Exodus 14:4, it says, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, meaning after Israel, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh. Why? Because the Most High is the one that took Pharaoh out and his armies, and upon all his hosts. Because you have assholes that say, well, no, Pharaoh didn't die, it was just the army. No, Pharaoh and his hosts, the Most High, it says, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts. So the Lord destroyed all of them, that the Egyptians may know that I am Yahweh, and they did so. All right. So that's an honorable thing when you're able to take your enemy down, especially someone that was supposed to be a worthy opponent. All right. Let's see what else we got. Ezekiel 13:17. We'll read that again. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. So it's going to come, something going to happen to where all this money you're paying out to these Russians and other nations is going to fail you. It says, their bows also shall dash the young men in pieces. What are the bows? These missiles. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. Why? Because when the missiles are let loose, and when these so-called Russians let go of those missiles, and these other allies of the of America let go of their missiles, they're going to have the spirit of the Lord upon them. They're going to be possessed to do this thing. And Babylon, which is America, Babylon the Great, the glory of kingdoms, because this has been the most glorious kingdom ever, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, and the Chaldees represent the wise men of Esau today, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And the ancient Babylonians were not thrown down like ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was thrown down. Ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was thrown down by what? By nuclear fire that the Most High caused to fuse together in the heavens. You know, and he caused that to happen, you know, to rain fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah. So the same way they were destroyed is the same way that the Lord is going to destroy Babylon the Great. And the ancient Babylonians and Chaldeans were not destroyed like that. They were taken by Darius the Mede without a major war happening. Jeremiah 51:1, make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes for his devices against Babylon, America, Babylon the Great, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, the vengeance of his temple. And this is why the Lord said, rejoice over her. When you see the vengeance upon this place, you see it being taken apart by the prophecies of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, we're supposed to rejoice, because this is the Lord avenging us on this devil. There's another point. I'm not sure if this is it. Let me see. Let me just. No, it must be the 50th chapter then. Bear with me. Jeremiah 50:40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. And this is how you know that this is connected to Babylon the Great and also to Esau. When you read up the 31st verse, it's speaking about Babylon. And this is how they're going to go down: as the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof. So today you have the technology known as the nuclear missiles, which the Most High is going to use to rain upon these devils. That's why these guys that talk about that the nuclear missiles are not in the scriptures, don't talk about the nuclear missiles. They're reprobates, man. The Lord took that spirit off of them. Saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. And when you go to ancient Babylon, you still have people that live there, that have homes there. You still have ancient ruins in certain places. You know, you have modern buildings that are there, that they've built up. But the Lord said, when this one is destroyed, like he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, there will be nothing set back up in this place ever again. You know, and it goes on more and more. Let's go back to Isaiah 13. It says, it shall never be inhabited. We're reading it again. And another place you could read about this is in Isaiah, the 34th chapter. You know, where it speaks about the same exact thing. These nations being gathered together to hear this thing. And the main nation that it speaks of and mentions in that chapter of Isaiah 34 is who? Idumea, which Idumea is a Greek way of saying Edom. So letting you know that when the Lord brings a destruction, the Edomites will be in power, which is the daughter of Babylon, or Babylon the Great. And when they're destroyed, this place, America, which is Babylon the Great, will never be inhabited ever again. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. So you're not going to have these damn Ishmaelites coming over here selling that badass camel meat and setting up shop here. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. Because the houses it's speaking about is the ancient landmarks where these great houses like the White House and Capitol Hill and stuff like that is at. These different governmental buildings that represent America, the so-called greatness of America. You know, there's not going to be nothing there, but you're going to have these different unclean animals living in those areas, in those regions. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, see, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And a time is near to come, and the day shall not be prolonged. So this is a future prophecy of the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, by the Russians today, but also the allies of Russia, but also the allies of America. Because you have the allies of America, which is the EU, you know, that are going to actually also shoot missiles against this place to destroy it. Because it's going to be it's in the plans of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So the last precept I'm going to leave you with is Revelation 20:7. It says, and when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. This is dealing with the 1,000-year sentence that was given to Esau, that they could not deceive the nations anymore. And that time period took place from the time when the Roman Empire, the pagan Roman Empire fell and Jake got up in there, unto the time of the Renaissance period. You know, around the 1400s, when Esau came back into power and they were rebirthed. And what was the first thing they did when they got back into power? And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And then in this deception, they also did what? Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So Gog and Magog play a major part, a major role in future prophecy. And that's dealing with Russia. All right. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about. And the camp of the saints is what? The land of Israel. It says, and the beloved city. And that's where? In the land of Israel, Jerusalem, Bethlehem. And fire came down from the Most High out of heaven and devoured them. And how did that fire come down? Through the missiles, but also through the chariots, when Yahweh and the angels come back to destroy this place. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, which is what? America totally engulfed by nuclear fire. Where the beast, which is NATO and the EU, and the false prophet, which is the Roman Catholic Church, which they all in cahoots with America, have been going around gathering these nations for this great battle. Where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So in other words, this destruction and this burning is going to go up for a long period of time. All right. So with that, that's been the breakdown of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. And as the prophecy develops more and more, there's going to be other things that are going to be brought out, But for the most part, we have the major or the great portion of what the scripture, this chapter is speaking about, So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. Until the next time I say shalom.